think what we wanted to talk about today, and please send questions into Jessica as we go along. I'll save some time at the end to answer them. I think that when we look at the oil and gas industry and the overall energy industry, we've had cybersecurity issues here for at least 15 years, some very, very dramatic ones. Stuxnet was one that I've talked about before in several of the ITMPI sessions. I've given a number of talks about it, looked deeply into Stuxnet. But now we've ended up with pretty much the perfect storm in the energy industry, with oil prices dropping dramatically and political instability rife throughout the world. It's really set for a number of more disasters that we can think of. Stuxnet was one of the other one that's been in the industry, and I'll talk a little bit about it, is Exxon's Torrance facility explosion. Both onshore and offshore, we've seen that there are very dramatic incidents of cybersecurity breaches. And they're due to a number of things, but the majority of it is just due to the rapid drop in the oil price. Equipment manufacturers, drilling contractors, the majors such as Exxon, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, BP, Total, ENI, all the major companies have cut project investment, have cut their people investment, and now cybersecurity isn't even on the horizon for most of these folks. What had been at least a slight effort 3 years ago towards looking at cybersecurity as a problem across the industry has now been replaced by how do I preserve rigs and how do I stack them, and what's the mergers and acquisition philosophy going on. So those are some of the things we're going to be looking at. I think the oil price, the rapid drop in oil price, can be shown here. When you look at February last month, prices fluctuated from $26 a barrel up to $30-some a barrel. Some of the latest prices came in on the 6th of September 2013. The Cushing, Oklahoma price was $110.60 per barrel. Today it's somewhere hovering around 30. That's an incredible drop. It's the most dramatic drop that we've seen in the oil industry. Also, just on the side, Cushing, Oklahoma, when we look at the spec oil price there, it's because Cushing, Oklahoma is a transfer point for lots of different oil sources within the U.S. That's why it's there, and that's how the main price is. So you can see this is dramatic. Think of with all the shale drilling that was going on worldwide, the natural gas and oil drilling, drilling offshore Brazil, in the Gulf of Mexico. $30 a barrel is the lowest you can really go without it being free. At $30 a barrel and under, oil might as well be free because the majors and the drillers are making nothing on that. The economics have changed with the rapid run-up, with everything that was put out in the field, all the new builds that have been done. So $30 a barrel is pretty much the floor. Once you get below that, it becomes a very interesting problem. So that's the oil price drop. Let's look at political instability. And there's a number of zones to look at. Zone 1 is in the Americas. For those of you in the Americas, Zone 1 is Colombia, Venezuela, and now Cuba. Cuba's got a lot of, has offshore reserves. For years it was off limits. With now the warming of relations after all these years between the U.S. and Cuba, there's the ability to get more drilling in. The Chinese National Oil Company has been drilling off of Cuba for about 3 or 4 years now. They've been the major one doing exploration. So that's going to increase. but there's still political instability in places like Venezuela. Venezuela is enormously unstable right now. That zone, and then the number is the percentage of the world's oil that comes from those areas. So zone 1, about 7.5%. Zone 2, and we're all painfully aware of the issues in Iraq, Syria, Iran, Libya, throughout the Eastern Mediterranean and North Africa. That zone 2 accounts for about 31% of the oil coming out of the U.S. Zone 3 is off of coast of Africa, the west coast of Africa. It's Nigeria, Angola, Cote d'Ivoire, Congo. Again, a lot of political instability there, and it accounts for about 2.25% of the world's oil. Zone 4 has about 17%. Zone 4 is really Soviet Union, Russia and the former Soviet Union. Places like in the Caspian Sea, Azerbaijan, those areas, there's still a certain amount of political instability there throughout the Caucasus. That has about 17%. Finally, Zone 5 is increasing dramatically. That's the area in Asia, the South China Sea. Here we have, as I think we're all aware, the issues amongst North Korea and South Korea, North Korea and the rest of the world, but also the outreach that China's doing to build artificial islands, to have a much stronger naval presence in that area. So the whole area is being contested among China, Japan, the Philippines, Korea, both Koreas. So there's a lot of instability in that area, and that's about 8%. So what we end up with is about almost 70% of the world's oil supply is in areas that are unstable. So this political instability plus the rapid drop in the price of oil causes these openings in these companies now to look at issues and to not address some of the critical pieces of cybersecurity. Something that I want to address directly here today is understanding that the control software in the oil and gas industry is very vulnerable to cyber attack, and that it has been attacked. This is something that we've known about. We've had attacks in the energy sector for years, and it is getting worse and is going to continue getting worse. Also, based on the rapid decline in the price of oil and the layoffs, equipment manufacturers, drilling contractors, oil company operators have very little incentive to fix the vulnerabilities. In fact, they don't even have staff. As an aside, when you look at how the companies have had to reduce staff, when you think of a set of oil rigs, you may have a crew of 50 people on one rig. That crew rotates through every 28 days. On shore, you may have another 100 people that are there as part of the support for that rig. And once you start having the layoffs, you not only lose that corporate knowledge, but you lose the ability to manage those rigs. Many of these rigs now are going to be what called stacking or put into preservation for some future use. Clients went from 50 people supporting 3 rigs to 1 person on shore supporting it. So that's the type of dramatic changes we see in the industry. I'm going to provide with you a proven list of some of the known engineering risk mitigation solutions to the vulnerabilities that we can see, and what we are going to also finally look at is a method for applying the National Institute of Science and Technology, their cybersecurity framework, to really any industry. I think the main way is that the energy industry